Welcome to the Lead Out Loud podcast. I am Professor G. This is another Real Leadership edition. It is episode, I meant to get the episode number. I forgot. It's episode
like
70-something. I have today with me Corey Rasmussen, who's been on the show before. Corey the Coaster Man, I believe, is his handle.
That is true.
And also joining us again is Mariam Laes, and I forget, let's see, I think on the last one it was Mariam, we need a cool nickname, Laes. Does that sound right?
Nickname pending, Laes, yeah.
Mariam, I'm almost able to move back into my own house, Laes.
Yes.
Okay, now that I got the introductions out of the way, now you guys can say funny things again. Go ahead.
It was hard being that serious for that long, Steve, Sean. Hey, so Independence Day, right?
Now they're not going to say anything funny.
We're going to say funny things here. We just got to get off topic.
We were talking about how we should do. What did you say? We should do
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, party time, excellent.
Let's see, Wayne's World. We watched that about a year, maybe two ago with the girls, and then you mentioned another movie too. Now I've forgotten what it was.
No, it was Monty Python. I made a reference of the flesh wound.
It's only a flesh wound.
That's right. Yeah, both of those probably could be contenders. But this is the big 4th of July. This is the big America 250 episode of the Lead Out Loud podcast. And for those of you that are listening and not watching, Mariam and Corey both unscripted, spontaneously just did a little America 250 dance. Yeah.
Sadly, I didn't say like America or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will come.
We have the soundbite now, so we'll just put it in later.
So we are, I'm going to peel back the curtain again. We are recording this a week before it's going to launch. Dropping today is Top Gun, the original. And so we've got Top Gun and then Independence Day. We're really just kind of trying to whoop up the America spirit here for America 250. There it is. All right, so let's get some business out of the way real quick here. I'm going to read the AI-generated synopsis of the movie Independence Day for those of you that haven't seen it in a minute, or for those of you that may be like Mariam and don't watch things before you were born. Watch things that were released before you were born. All right, Independence Day. Wait, let me back up. Okay, Independence Day was released on July 3rd, 1996. It grossed $817 million at the box office, won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Here is the synopsis of the movie. I'm going to read it like Announcer Man. When enormous alien spacecraft appear over Earth's major cities, governments initially struggle to determine whether the visitors come in peace. Their answer arrives quickly when the aliens launch a coordinated attack that destroys much of humanity's infrastructure and military capability. Okay, now I'll go into Professor G mode.
Hey, don't forget the people. They got died too.
As civilization teeters on collapse, a diverse group of survivors, including a scientist, a fighter pilot, a president, and a disgraced former pilot, which of course...
We're going to have fun with that one.
Has to be played by a Quaid, must overcome personal differences and work together to organize a last-ditch counter-offensive against an enemy that appears unstoppable. At its core, Independence Day is a story about ordinary people stepping into extraordinary leadership roles during a crisis. I don't actually like that last bit. That was ChatGPT trying to be clever and make it about leadership.
I would agree with that statement, because the one thing that stood out to me, there was only 3 real leaders, and we'll get into that.
Okay. So before we get into that, I'm going to ask you guys a question. And I have 2 questions. I can't decide which one to lead with. I'm going to
go with the second one.
I am going to go with the second one. The first one I'm going to turn into a comment, and we can discuss. I believe the theme of this movie is about bravery versus leadership. So I want to dive into that. Before we get into that, though, or maybe as a launching pad for that, Who do you think was the best example of a leader in this film? We'll go ladies first.
I don't remember his name, but I thought it was the general who was working with the president. Not the like corrupt guy, the guy that was in uniform.
Right.
I think he was a general. I don't know. I don't remember.
You're talking about
his
Robert
name was
Loggia's
General
character.
Gray, by the way.
General Gray. I thought that he was the strongest leader.
Yes, so, okay, General Gray, played by Robert Loggia, which here's another fun thing we've started to do. Robert Loggia was in another movie we covered on this podcast. Corey, do you know what it was?
No.
Big. He was the owner of the toy store in Big. Which, means nothing other than we just like these little fun trivia tidbits. Okay, Corey, who is the strongest leader in the movie?
So, I like the general too, but I put him second to Julius Levinson, David's dad.
Okay.
He was a fun one because they show him off as nagging, and he's constantly, I'll say, he's seeing the talent in his son David that David doesn't see or doesn't want to. But he just continually steps up. He calms situations. He's the eternal optimist. He's one of the guys pressing forward.
Okay. I went with somebody that I think is probably unsuspecting. Obviously, you guys did not choose this person. I don't think anybody, if you just asked them who's the strongest example of a leader in Independence Day, nobody would give this answer. But as I was watching the movie, I kept coming back to, gosh, I see a lot of bravery. I see a lot of people doing things, that maybe are outside their comfort zone or that are dangerous. But I don't see a lot of leadership, except in the character of Jasmine Dubrow, played by Vivica Fox, which is the soon-to-be wife of Will Smith's character, Captain Hiller. They're not married yet, but they are together. I thought she was the best example of a leader in the movie.
She would be my number 2. Yeah.
She didn't rank in my book.
Wow. Why not?
I don't know. Just, how much do you trust a stripper, right?
Well, okay.
I think she did what needed to be done, just like everybody else in the movie. But it seemed... I guess her character seemed very far-fetched in my book. That how does a Air Force captain meet a stripper and then fall in love and then... I don't know. It seemed far-fetched.
Okay,
and then all of a sudden she's
We're going to unpack that.
This beacon of strength and...
Okay, so first of all, how does an Air Force captain meet a stripper? I mean, really?
I think we all know.
Come on. Are you pretending you know nothing about the military right now?
I'm not saying that. I'm just, how does...
And
how do they fall in love enough to get married?
Number 2, I have to tee a bit at you saying, the most unbelievable part of this film was the idea that an Air Force captain and a stripper would get together.
Hey,
For me, there were so
secondary
many
to my first point was...
There were so many things that I was like, okay, Mariam, suspend disbelief. Just like they'd be in space with no oxygen mask. And it's like, what are we doing here? But then the fighter pilots would have it's like, what? There were so many inconsistencies that I had to just let go. It's like, Mariam, let go of this. It's an old movie. It's fine.
It's an old movie.
Of all the things that I found. It
wasn't in black and white.
It wasn't. I wouldn't watch it if it were.
Okay,
but of all the...
So Mariam, defend as all right. We heard why Corey didn't like or didn't agree with Jasmine, but you said she was number 2. So why did you see her as a good leader?
I'm trying to recall back. So she remained calm in situations where everybody else was panicking. She was quick on her feet. She was resourceful, and then, so that's just survival instinct, basically, right? But then beyond that, she was able to influence strangers to basically go along with whatever it is she thought needed to be done. So did she do what needed to be done? Yes, but like saving the vice president, she immediately, I'm sorry, saving the president's wife. She immediately recognized what that was. And I think others would have been like, oh, let's just like leave that lady. But she was like, no, we need to save her. Let's take her with us, even though it might be a burden. And then she kind of led them to the base. Even when they got there, she probably convinced them to stay there. I just think she did it. She influenced people that had no reason to trust or believe her. And that for me is a sign of strong leadership when you're able to do that.
Is this the point where I say it's probably because they didn't know she was a stripper?
Being a stripper has anything to do.
I don't.
Like, your occupation has nothing to do with your leadership ability.
I think that's accurate. I think we also, there's probably some jokes we could make about strippers leading things, but I can't think of them right now. And that would probably earn us an explicit rating. I thought that I saw a lot of people in the movie doing what they were told, or executing, as I said, like executing something that was dangerous because they're like, hell yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Right.
Which is not, in my opinion, leadership per se. It's bravery, hence why I wrote down bravery versus leadership. She was one of the few people where I'm like, okay, nobody's telling her what to do. She's going and actively solving problems and then bringing people along. Now, is she were they following her because she's a great leader or because they saw an opportunity to survive and she presented the best option? Which is why, Mariam, I like what you said, the survival aspect. That's one of the things we talk about in my leadership class, like this idea of survival leadership. You're going to follow the person that's going to keep you alive. And that's what people did. And she did. She kept those people alive. Even though she was a stripper. I do like the scene where the first lady asks her, oh, so, what do you do? Or whatever. She goes, oh, I'm a dancer. Like, oh, ballet.
Uh-huh. Exotic. Wait, Corey, so aside from her being a stripper, what did she not deliver that kind of disqualifies her in your eyes?
Well, I go with what Sean says. She was very brave. She was resourceful, but she didn't, it was kind of, you're in a situation and you do what needs to be done. Whether or not, she did do all the things, lead, pick up the first lady, pick up people, but those were kind of like things that were naturally on the way to what she wanted to achieve.
Fair.
Okay, Corey, so you liked, was General Gray, no, yeah, that's right, the dad. General Gray was Mariam's. Okay, so you liked, where is he? Judd Hirsch's character, Julius Levinson. So Julius plays the father of Jeff Goldblum, just for people that haven't seen the movie. Jeff Goldblum's character, he is, let's see, he was married to
Constance.
Was she the chief of staff, by the way?
I don't know if they gave her title.
Yeah, they didn't formally say, but I gathered that she was chief of staff based on how she was written.
It's kind of like what it looked like. So Constance was her name, played by Margaret Collin. So that's the connection here. So Jeff Goldblum is this guy. He's this techie guy, and he studies radio frequency transmissions, and he picks up these transmissions that are coming from the aliens that have now they're camped out on the moon. And he figures out, wait, this is a countdown. And so he is able to get that information to the administration because of his connection to Constance, who he was either married to before or they were together, but now they're not. And his dad, so he's obviously, it's a Jewish son and Jewish father and son. They've got the tension you would expect from a Jewish parental relationship. But the father, Julius, is the one who is kind of both coaxing and also sometimes chastising the son. But Corey, now that I've introduced the character there, go ahead, make your case. Why'd you like him so much?
I liked him because, I have, along with Sean, we have teenage kiddos who kind of don't know what's best for them, and we have to keep nagging. We have to see what's in them that they don't see, and bring that out. Now, in David's case, he's a little bit old. I'm sure he's 30, 35 at the time, or maybe
not a
40.
teenager.
Not a teenager. But his dad sees this awesome potential that's in him, and one of the things, I don't want to really get into David, but he's trying to save the world by recycling, and he doesn't realize that his calling is to save the world by going up into an alien spaceship and planting a virus. A little bit different, a little bit thinking small. But David's dad, Julius, does see that. There's a time in the White House, in the Oval Office, where the president comes in and everybody's arguing, and he's the one who silences the room, and he's like, "Hey, listen." And then he does it again on the plane when they want to nuke. Then he gets them quiet to, long enough to discover Area 51. Or discover. So, those were some of the reasons. He's the eternal optimist, which being in a leadership role, you have to be. If your crew sees that you're down about something, it just plays off like, they amplify it, just like our kids do with all of our bad behaviors.
So, you mentioned our teenage kids. I have, or at least I had, a Lead Out Loud mug and a Sean Genovese Enterprises mug, both of which have been broken by my children. So when I went to get ready for today's show, I went to go find my mug, one of them, and I couldn't find either. And I'm like, oh, I guess they broke them both. So I am drinking out of my Washington, D.C. mug today, which is part of my extensive mug collection, because this movie takes place largely in Washington, D.C. And coming back to the father-son relationship, I did write down, he was very supportive of his son. And you mentioned how he takes command of he kind of tells everybody to shut up for a minute. The nice thing about Julius is that every time he intervenes, it's always very factually based. He's grounding everybody. He doesn't come in and say things like, well, I think we should do this because, it feels like the right thing. He says, hey, you guys, you need to listen to my son. He's the reason we're all in this room. Basically calling back to the, hey, he's the one that realized there was a countdown. And so he's always bringing that fact-based leadership moment to the room. And then he's the one that leads everybody in a prayer when the shit's about to hit the fan and they're waiting for the aliens to hopefully get conquered.
Yep.
Mariam, anything on Julius?
No, I mean, I agree with everything Corey said, and I think he definitely exhibited a different type of leadership, one that we don't, maybe, especially when you think about not formal. Let me take a step back. When people think about leadership, they typically think about the typical definition, which is like in an organization, where you are in that organization, and this man was nowhere in the, right? He had no place in that organization, but
you can call that formal leadership.
Okay, yeah. So, but he still had the ability to influence people, and he was able to like resonate on an emotional level without being emotional, which was really interesting. Like he was able, it's like he was able to rein in emotions without escalating, right? And he was able to kind of change someone's, like especially his son, like his son was like heated about something, he could kind of get him to, okay, let's calm back down without having to like rise to that level, which is a very difficult thing to do. And some of the best leaders are never able to do it. It's just like a different form of leadership. So I do think he was a strong leader. And I agree with basically your assessment of him, Corey. I agree with everything you said. And Sean, the part about leading everyone in prayer. When everyone else was exhibiting bravery, he was exhibiting leadership in that moment with everybody else that like wasn't part of the story, right? All the civilians.
Yeah. Well, and even some of the people that weren't civilians, I forget which one it was now. It might have been, I think it was Nimziki, the SecDef that got fired, where, you know, he's pulling.
Yes.
So it's a silly moment, right? It's kind of a comedic moment in the movie, but it proves the point that he was leading when he's like, hey, come over here. We're going to join in a prayer. And then Nimziki comes over and he's like, but I'm not Jewish. He goes, doesn't matter. Sit down.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's got these people following him that don't even necessarily believe all the things he believes, but he's now inspired them.
And he's like emotionally regulating them. So he's not getting them to do anything. He's just getting them to whatever emotional state he wants them to be in, which in that moment was calm. And I just think that's like a very niche, like that's a very specific skill to have. And not a lot of people can do that.
Okay, let's go to General William Gray. Mariam, why did you like him?
Well, unpopular, maybe, but it's your point of bravery versus leadership. Every time the president would do something, I was like, ugh, ego. Like, ego. Like, here we go. Okay, you gotta prove that you could still fly the jet. Sir, your job is to lead people as a president. Your job is, and also, did you forget your wife just died? So you're going to risk orphaning your child so you can have your 3 seconds of like, look at me, I can fly. Like, no, sit the F down and actually lead people. And so I would get frustrated with him, but he would always look for like the okay from the general. And you could tell I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but to me, it felt like as an audience member, the general had the same thoughts I was having, which was like, all right, dude, you want your moment in the spotlight. Fine, go have it. It's your decision. You have my approval. But I don't think the general necessarily agreed. I think he probably, if he had wanted that, he would have asked the president to do that. And the fact that he didn't, I think the general had a little bit more sense and was a little bit more like, no, somebody needs to be here to actually give direction to everybody else. And so to me, he was like the strongest leader.
I think actually what you just described, though, especially at the end, I think that's the reason why I didn't even write his name down. Like I wrote it down because I was like, oh, Robert Loggia, he was in Big. I didn't put General Gray down anywhere because for me, he was I don't want to say a throwaway character, but he was auxiliary. And it was, so I agree. He exhibited some sound thinking, right? He kind of was like maybe doing this over in the corner, whatever. But at the end of the day, he wasn't influencing anybody. Like he didn't convince the president not to go. He didn't convince, let's see, he's not the one that convinced him to, he wasn't the one advocating to take the nuclear option, was he? I thought that was
no,
the
he was not.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see a lot of leadership from him. I saw a common sense person, but that was it.
Well, I thought he was willing to set his ego aside to command the room when the person who should have been commanding the room decided to go do the big brave thing. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. I think the president should have been the one calling all those shots, but then the president was like, bye, I'm gonna get in the cockpit. Then the general's like, okay, all right, I guess I will lead all the peoples and call all the shots. Whether or not he wanted to, he stepped up and did it.
So let's talk about the president.
Well, you don't have to be, I'll say, out loud leadership. You know, just sometimes your presence, being calm, cool, and collected, trusting the person that is in charge, sets the example for everybody else. And by that, you're being a leader. You know, he's got a very commanding presence. He used it. He was there. He was loyal. He wanted to stay by the president's side. So those are all good things. Now,
that's actually a really good point. That's a good point. Because of his title and position in the organization, the fact that he was not disagreeing with the president is a form of leadership. That's good. I like that. Sorry, continue.
No, I was done. We can go to Pres Whitmore.
Didn't we have a 7th grade teacher named Whitmore?
Yeah. No, it was... Yeah, it was 7th grade. Yeah, Mrs. Whitmore.
So,
nobody liked her.
Yeah, she was weird.
Nobody liked her.
She was an odd duck.
I was having a good day, Sean.
Sorry. Okay, I'm going to kick us off here. Not a good leader.
So, I'm going to fight you to the death on this one, because I put him as number 3.
Send it.
Send it? So, despite the biggest flaw that we saw was he fought in the battle when he was the president, so you got to stay in a secure location as much as you could have. And don't orphan your kid. But he did forget lots of past issues with David and was always looking forward. He wanted peace with the aliens even after they started attacking. They attacked the plane, they blew up the 3 cities. And he was showing restraint that entire time until he got captured by the alien. Not captured, but they, I don't know. They used their ESPN on him, and he saw their plan, and then he was, we got to go and act on that. He was able to, I'll say, temporarily put his dying wife or dead wife aside to go do what needed to be done, even though he's probably under great emotional distress. And that's what I had.
Okay, I have some counterpoints, but Mariam?
No, I don't think he's a bad leader. Sean, I don't know if you have him in a bad leader category. I don't think he's a bad leader. He just seemed more like an immature one, if that makes sense. He had all of the things, Corey, that you talked about. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Even the very beginning, when the aliens were descending upon Earth, and his initial reaction was like, let's not panic people. Let's remain calm. We need to show that we are calm. Like, I was like, okay, he's probably like shaking in his boots, and you see him calling his wife, telling her, get over here, right, in the background. But to the people, to the public, he presented like, it's okay, we got this, it's gonna be okay. He kept people calm. And there were a lot of, like you mentioned, Corey, a lot of instances in the movie where he did exhibit leadership. He gave that big speech before getting on the plane, trying to unify everyone under one cause. So I thought he had some good moments. Then to me, it was like almost like a net, like you get to 0 because of then his ego and bravery. I'll call it bravery because of his bravery that came into play later. I just thought then, you seem more like an immature leader, but still a leader. I don't think you're a bad leader. I just thought he was a little bit immature.
I think he's a horrible leader, and here's why. I hear all that, but my issue is that the good things that the good leadership attributes that we see are all words. If you look at what his actions are, they're ridiculous. So, starting with, like, he doesn't do the smart things. The alien ships are like hovering over the White House, and sir, we should go to the bunker. No, I'm not going to go to the bunker because I want people to know that I'm not afraid. Like, dude, no, I kind of think maybe you should go to a secure location. Like, you have a responsibility to be a leader and a resource for the country. And if you're dead, you can't do that.
He did send the vice president and all the joint chiefs out.
Great. Okay, so, but then that means, I guess we don't need him, is what he was saying. It's kind of like when you fast forward to him, getting in the plane. Now, of course, the plot mechanism for that is, he used to be a fighter pilot. They needed all the people they can get. So they're kind of contrasting, well, here's the president of the United States who is this decorated veteran, and then you have Randy Quaid's character who's like the drunk loser flying crop dusters. Okay, well, we're going to put them both up and go kick some alien ass. fine, okay, that's movies. But then it's like, well, he could have evacuated the cities, but he didn't. And he even says we could have done this hours ago, but now a bunch of people died. He's constantly, I wrote down, he's very agreeable to whatever. I saw him make one decision. We'll get to that in a second. He's never making decisions. People are coming in and going, sir, I think we should do this. And he goes, yeah, fine, let's go do that. That's not leadership. He gets pressure, but not advice. Sir, we need to exercise the nuclear option. We need to nuke them. I don't know if we should do that. Sir, you really need to do that. Just do it. Like, they never really go, okay, let me advise you. Here's why we should do it. Pros, cons. They're just like, no, we got to do it. And he goes, okay, fine, let's do it. The one thing, all right, two things. Number one, he is good at staying the course. Once he made a decision, he's like, okay, great, we're going to go do this. The one leadership decision I saw him make that was probably the best thing in the film from his character. Do you guys, you want to take a guess?
No, we don't want to guess.
He fired the Secretary of Defense.
Ah, there we go.
Okay, yes. Can we clarify that for a second?
Yeah.
I was very confused by that. So he fired him because he claimed that this guy was a snake, or I guess I was just confused. I'm like, well, why are you firing him all of a sudden? But what was his beef with him? Like, what was wrong with what he did?
Well, we want to talk about the Sec Def now?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I put there as the first thing of how did he get in that position? Because he's a pessimist in every way.
Yes.
He's always getting in the way. He is excited to launch nuclear weapons over America. And he wants to jump to DEFCON 3, in a split second. All things that are very serious and weighty, and it doesn't sound like he's weighing the ramifications for him. So, how do you get in that position?
Well, politics would be my guess.
I guess so.
I'm kind of with you. It's like he continuously is disagreeing. I wrote down, he's the naysayer, right? We've talked about this before on the show about, you've got people in organizations, and sometimes you get the naysayers that it doesn't matter what the idea is. They're just going to immediately tell you why it's not going to work, why it's a bad idea. That was him. Everything was a bad idea. And then the reason he gets fired, though, is because he's part of the machine, right? He's part of the bureaucratic machine. And he knew about Area 51. He knew about all the research they had going on. It kind of sounds like he authorized some of it, and he withheld it from the president. I don't think that alone is why he fired him. I think it was when the president realized, wait a minute, we're now at this point in time. Knowing what you know about what's going on, you didn't think it was a good idea to share some of this secret shit you've been hiding with me? And that was the last straw. Like, no, you're fired. Get out of here. I forget what exactly he says when he finally fired him.
It just came so much later in the story than them finding Area. I think that's why I was confused, because I was like, okay, I can understand that. Oh, you knew about Area 51. You knew about all this alien stuff and you didn't say anything. I don't trust you anymore. You're out of here. I would get that. But it was like, okay, but we had already discovered that, and the plot had moved along 30 minutes, and then he got fired. And I was like, what? What did he just do? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Because to me, it would have been enough to hide.
You're kind of making my point for me that the president is a horrible leader.
Okay.
He obviously did not surround himself with the best people possible. And then waited way too long to fire him.
Yeah, so it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, I wasn't tracking what was happening, but it didn't matter. It was moving on.
I like that actor, though. That was Rebhorn is his name. I forget his first name. Let's see, I have it here somewhere. He's been in a bunch of stuff as well. And always James Rebhorn. Okay. If we're done with the Sec Def and the president, I think we need to go back to the Jeff Goldblum character, which is David Levinson. I will throw one other little piece of funny trivia out there just about my watching experience. So my kids, one of them said she'd seen Independence Day. Oh, no, it was the neighbor. The neighbor said she'd seen it, but my kids, I guess, had never seen it. And so we're sitting there, and they're talking about, like, the aliens come over, and they're going, oh, what are we going to do? And we had paused it for some reason, and I said, well, you know what I think they ought to do is they ought to, like, figure out how the aliens communicate with each other and how all their systems operate, create some kind of, like, a computer virus, and then find a way to go introduce it into their system so that it takes them all down.
That's a stupid idea.
Alyssa turns around to me, and she's just like, what the hell are you talking about? That's so stupid.
That is a pretty dumb idea. I wonder if it'll work.
Like an hour later, she goes, oh, you knew.
You've seen, like, this great movie that was made.
That's really cute.
All right, let's talk about David Levinson. Who wants to start?
Well, I mean, he's definitely likable.
Look, from a leadership perspective, he resonates with me because, and I wrote it down exactly this way. He had his dad is the one that introduced this one word. He had the courage to share his crazy ideas. Right? From the very beginning, when he's like, this is a countdown, and his dad's like, hey, you know what? It might be crazy, but this could be important.
Yep. I wrote down that he's resilient, a man of principle. You know, he's obsessed with saving the environment, and he does what he does. Like, he just naturally, like, hey, I'm a computer programmer. I'm gonna make a virus and give it a cold, and then we're gonna go, up to this thing and just do it. And that's what's gonna take. And we're gonna do it. My only regret or thing with him is, and the thing that he has to battle is, he's thinking too small. His life up to this moment. Saving the environment by recycling a couple of soda cans, as opposed to saving the whole world by programming an awesome virus.
I think to that point, we watched somebody go from an individual contributor to a leader in that movie, because he was the smartest person in the room. He was really good at what he did. And that was what got people to listen to him. But it wasn't because he could command a room. It wasn't because he had the confidence to present his idea. His dad basically forced him. And in fact, his dad played him emotionally to even get him to share the countdown thing, because he's like, oh, you're still wearing your wedding ring. You want to lose that ex-wife of yours? Like, I know you still care about her. So his motivation wasn't even like, oh, I really think I have the answer. His motivation was, I don't want my ex to die, so I'm going to go share with my dad is basically forcing me, emotionally manipulating me to go share what I know. And I think he's started to gain confidence as when they got to Area 51, he started to work with the lab techs, and then his dad gave him the idea for the virus. Somehow he then gained a whole bunch of confidence overnight to be able to present his big wild idea. But I do think if we take a step back and look at it from a broad point of view, it's watching somebody go from a strong individual contributor to having the courage, the confidence to be a leader, and then he went and did the brave thing and went up in space. It was basically willing to sacrifice himself to make sure that he could save humanity.
So I agree with all that. I just see it as more bravery than leadership. I'd be interested to see how, the following year of his life changed. Is he more of a leader? Does he take on better responsibility? Or is he just more confident in his abilities?
I did write the word courage down related to him, Corey, which kind of goes along with the bravery thing. Yeah.
It's like we're thinking the same language.
I gotta say, when I threw this movie, so Corey texted me and said, hey, you did Moneyball. That would have been fun. Hey, can I do the next one? And I said, absolutely. I go, what do you want to do? He's like, well, what's on the short list? And I'm thinking 4th of July is coming up. because I got a bunch of movies somewhere, but I can't find the list. So, like, I said, hey, how about Independence Day? Because my thought went to, well, okay, it's going to be Independence Day. And also, well, my memory of it was, well, that's a movie about, this group of people leading the charge to go and infiltrate the aliens on kind of a risky thing. And yeah, sure, certainly there's some leadership there. As I'm watching the movie, I'm like, this is not the best leadership movie that we've covered so far.
I mean, we haven't even talked about the main character.
All right, let's go.
I'm not saying we have to. I'd rather talk about Randy Quaid.
Well, let's talk about the main character, and then I think that'll be our last character.
Okay, so we're going to Captain Stephen Hiller, played by Will Smith. This was arguably his breakout role. He had gained fame in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then did... What was the movie
Was this after or during Fresh Prince era?
Way after.
Way after, but it came out, and I thought Fresh Prince was, like, during the 90s it was on. Was it earlier?
Yeah, well, this was 96.
Yeah. Okay, that's mid-90s.
Fresh Prince was probably 89 to...
Okay, so it started then earlier than I
even remember Will Smith and his rap career, man.
All right,
Parents just don't understand.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air aired...
At Bel-Air?
First episode was 1990. And how many seasons did it go for? Boy, any other time gives this shit to me right away. 6 seasons. So he would have been rapping Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he made this movie. But he also made Bad Boys was before Independence Day. So, and again, I think Bad Boys is a better movie 20 years later than it was when it came out. It's one of those...
pretty good when it came out.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like it's one of those that kind of gets better when you watch it a few more times. So that's why I say Independence Day is arguably his real breakout role that shot him into movie stardom. Until, of course, he lost his mind and started slapping comedians on live television. But that's a whole nother story. Let's talk about Captain Steve Hiller.
So, surprisingly, as the main character of this for leadership, I wrote down one line. I said he was persistent and eventually got his dream. And that was it.
Mayor?
And I agree. I don't think he exhibited any leadership whatsoever. I don't think he was supposed to.
I will say... that's interesting. I don't think he was supposed to. Why? Because he was just supposed to be brave and courageous and just go do what he was told?
Yeah, like a hot shot. I think that was his character. Because... Yeah, I don't know. There were never even opportunities for him to be a leader, right? He was an execution guy. He was the brave one. He was the one that was like fearless, almost like recklessly fearless.
Yes. Kind of like the president.
He was like the president, but somehow the president was thrown into a formal leadership role.
Politics. So, there were... Go ahead, Corey.
I was going to say, he did, steal a helicopter at some point, so that's like a federal crime or something, I'm sure.
I had 2 things.
And he did marry a stripper. Things. That was kind of weird.
Oh my God, the stripper.
Back to the stripper. Listen, she was leading him to happy places.
We can only assume. That wasn't part of this movie.
I wrote 2 things down that I think go into the leadership category. One is what you just said. He did steal the helicopter to save his girlfriend. It wasn't even his wife. Which, look, you could argue that maybe that's bad leadership. But
I would say it's just a bad idea because he's a jet pilot, not a helicopter pilot.
Okay, so going back to plot inconsistencies, setting aside the fact that, aircraft are not just all aircraft. It was a rotorcraft is very different from a jet. But I was like, okay, well, here's at least an example of him doing something that he wasn't told to do
Mhm.
because he believes it's the right thing to do, and so he's just going to go and take care of it. Now, he had some selfish motivations there. The better example is probably is like in the very beginning of the movie where I kind of had a Top Gun moment where he's trying to coach his buddy through the dogfight. He's given him advice over the comms, not quite as a dire a situation as the beginning of the first Top Gun movie, where he's like trying to make sure the guy doesn't die. But that was it. Like that was okay. He's trying to lead him. He's trying to coach him. What leadership coaching? But yeah, he's an aspiring astronaut. He doesn't make it, right? He's going to marry a stripper, so I guess you could take the perspective that he was kind of a loser.
Agreed. He's very arrogant and thinks he's, well, she even accuses him, the stripper lady, of thinking he's all that. He's pretty confident with his response.
Which you have to be, though, that's kind of who they recruit to be fighter pilots.
Right.
It's kind of like, well, I'll pick on Boeing just because that one I can attest to. That's who they targeted for promoting into leadership roles. We're going to go find the Type A assholes and get them into senior leadership roles, and that was kind of part of the problem there.
Now, I found it interesting that they put him against Harry Connick Jr.'s part of Jimmy Wilder, where if Will Smith's arrogant, Harry Connick Jr.'s 5 times that amount. So they make him look like he's more moderate, even though he's probably just as arrogant.
Yeah, I forgot Harry Connick is on the cast list as well. Who is Harry Connick Jr.? Or what character did he play? Okay.
What character did he play? Both.
Is the other fighter pilot Jimmy Wilder?
In the very, very beginning, when they're smoking cigars? Okay.
Yeah. Bunch of boys being arrogant. Not to be confused with Van Wilder.
Exactly. Okay. We have 3 characters left. By my count.
Okay.
The chief of staff?
So, let's see.
I got Connie.
Yep.
Miguel and Randy Quaid. Let's save Randy for the last.
Okay.
Wait,
which one was
who's
Miguel?
He's the oldest son.
The oldest son of
Randy Quaid.
Of Randy Quaid.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's start with him. Go ahead, Corey.
All right. I didn't have much because he wasn't a really developed character, but I felt him torn between honoring his deadbeat father and taking care of the rest of his family, his 2 younger siblings. And it just proved to be a love-hate relationship. And then eventually, I think he had, when his dad, Russ, finally stepped up, he was finally at the point where, like, I'm proud that you were, at least for a few hours, able to man up.
Which, of course, there's a little irony there that the son is happy that the dad manned up. I wrote down nothing for the son. We'll get to Randy Quaid here in a minute. That's good though. I like that.
Who are the other 3 then?
Okay. Well, I had Russell, who we're going to get to in a minute. Constance, who we're going to do next. And this is probably just a brief mention. We could do that right now as well. The aliens.
There were aliens in this movie?
There were aliens in this movie.
Where?
The aliens. The So here's what I wrote down. I wrote down brute force. I'm not
it's
saying
effective.
Yeah, look, it's an example of a type of leadership, probably not the one that you want to emulate, because, they didn't come in trying to convince Earthlings to be a part of their team. They didn't come in trying to trick us or coax us or anything like that. They just came in with some superior firepower and started effing some shit up. And every time we tried to go and do some communicating or whatnot, they were just like, nope, boop. Like, okay, well, that's one way to do it.
Why would they want to communicate with us? The whole point was to eradicate the humans so that they could take over the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
So in their eyes, we are a virus on the planet that they're trying to exterminate so that then they can take over.
And we defeated them with a virus.
Right. But they act like a virus, right? Just like, like invade, infect, disinfect.
That's kind of my point, though, is that there are people out there, when we talk about leadership, there are people out there that take a brute force approach to leadership. Like, well, I'm just going to come in and I'm going to start telling people what to do, and they're going to do it because I told them to and I'm higher on the org chart.
Yeah.
And their attitude is, well, why would I communicate with somebody? Why would I need to do that? I'm just going to go tell them what to do and they're going to do it. And that's the aliens. They just kind of came in and were like, no, we like your planet. You're going to leave. Boop.
I will say, the advice to the aliens are, if you're going to kill the king, you better not miss. And they didn't realize what their vulnerabilities were. They don't have advisors to bounce ideas off of, as far as we know. But they just came in, we're going to do this, and we're superior. And there's nothing you can do about it.
All right, let's go to concepts.
So while we're on the topic of the aliens, I found it one of those dispelling reality. I'm like, okay, so you don't think that they serialized any of these ships? They just sent them all out, and then, hey, there's this one that came back after 50 years of being lost in the desert.
Right.
And nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just like, oh, you are overdue for an oil change.
My gosh, by like 50 years. Constance, eh?
And poor Mariam's just there going, okay, I have to suspend my disbelief because this doesn't make any sense.
Or literally. And I was like, what is the Millennium Falcon doing here? It was like there's a lot of Star Wars-esque type things going on. And I was like, okay, Mariam, just let it. There's probably only one company doing this type of like animation, CGI, special effects work.
All right.
Someone's phone ringing?
Yeah, now I'm going to have to mute the phone on Corey's audio because he doesn't like me. He wants me to do more work.
You could hear that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just like we can still hear your cooling fan, I'm going to have to go and mute that out too, but whatever.
Okay, so which one's Connie? Was she the
Chief
first
of
lady?
Chief of Staff.
Oh, okay.
We think. I mean, like you said, based on what we can tell. So for her, I kind of come back to the dad a little bit too. You've got some of these characters in the movie, and this goes back to Van Wilder, which we did a week or two ago. The idea of champion or cheerleader. Connie is there to support the president, and she seems to do a pretty good job of that. Just like the dad, Jeff Goldblum's dad. That's worse. Whatever you just did, Corey. Yeah, don't do that. I don't know. You just pushed a button, and now I can hear all kinds of noise from you.
It changed your microphone settings.
Do it to a change in their devices. I wish. Let me see if I can mute him.
All right. I'm assuming we're going to edit this out at this part, right?
Yeah, sure.
We edit. So, am I terrible or? I just pressed the mute button on my thing and.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Just mute yourself if you're not talking. That'll help.
Sean, write down 54 minutes. You remember to go back and edit it out.
It bounced him to a new track.
Am I muted now?
No. Corey has broken the podcast. There's always
How
something
about
with
now?
this guy.
Am I muted now?
No, you are not. No, you have managed to.
How the heck is that happening
then? I don't know. This is the technical difficulties portion of the show. Here, let me see if I can mute you. Okay, now he's muted.
Okay, we muted him. Okay, but then he can't talk.
He can talk, but we won't hear him.
That's great.
We'll see if he can unmute himself when he's ready to talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Connie. We believe she's the chief of staff. One thing, okay, so this idea of support people, she's there providing support to the president, just like the dad was providing support to, what was his name, David? Connie apparently left the relationship that she had with David to go and be in the administration. At least that's the way they tell the story. So, I mean, she clearly has, I don't know if you want to call that leadership. She's leading her own way. We don't know why they weren't getting along or why she felt like that was the better idea, but she obviously has some kind of strength in her personality to have done that, rightly or wrongly. So she seems to be a good, supportive person, at least for the president. And Corey gave us 2
Let's unmute him so he can
thumbs
speak.
up. Let's see. Unmute. Okay, you're back, Corey.
All right. Is the sound terrible?
It sounds like it's back to what it was before.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add on Connie?
No, I just put down that she was a good encourager and she was loyal. She expressed fears, but still did her job and stayed by the president's side.
Okay, let's go to your boy. So
Russell K.
Russell Case, played by Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid always seems to play kind of the edgy, slightly crazy dude.
Don't know what you're talking about, Sean. I can't imagine him and his boxers in Chicago in the winter, emptying out his
emptying
RV
his
into the sewer.
chemical toilet. Yeah.
Can't imagine
all right.
that.
What'd you think?
Oh, I liked him, man. He's that the straight man in the movie that comic relief. I put for him. He does what he does again. Like he's trying. He's failing all the time, but he's still is at it. I think he embodies more than anybody else what everybody in this film had to do at some point was go back to the place where they failed previously. And in his case, it was, his mojo being abducted by the aliens after they did, the experiments to him. But he had to face that and be ready and willing to move from that point on with his life.
And I guess we probably should have provided a little color commentary here on the background. So he is, I mentioned it earlier, was he in Vietnam, Korea? He was
Vietnam.
in a prior engagement flying, and now is a crop duster out in the desert in the Imperial Valley of California. They portray him as kind of being down on his luck. He's flying the plane drunk. He crop dusts the wrong field. Like he doesn't seem to get anything right. And then we also find out that he allegedly had an abduction. He was abducted by aliens. So he, at the end of the movie, is the one that ends up finally saving everything, but it's a kamikaze mission. He sacrifices himself. And again, a scene with a little bit of comic levity because he's like, okay, guys, I'm back.
Do we think he actually was abducted by aliens? Because aliens exist in this movie. It's not like in most movies you'd be like, oh, okay, it's just a kooky guy.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm kind of like, was he supposed to have, like, we have an alien on Earth, so why wouldn't aliens have had one of, like, taken one of us? So what are we, what do you guys think? Do you think he actually got abducted by aliens?
I think it's a movie.
Yeah, but in the movie, do you think he got abducted do you think his character had actually been abducted by aliens?
I'm going to side with yes, just because it's the funnier answer.
I feel like they left that deliberately vague, right? They never provide any evidence in the film to support that he did get abducted. They never refute it either. It's just kind of like they play him as the kooky guy that alleges to have been abducted. He says, hey, I'm back, but it's not like he goes, oh my God, yeah, that's exactly what they looked like before. He's not providing details. Like, it's not helpful to anybody, the fact that, let's say he was, right? I feel like if he really had been, they could have used that as a plot mechanism and given him a bigger role. And now he's got like this one piece of information. Oh, I remember when I was there, what we need to do is go drop the bomb into this long tunnel like Star Wars style or something like that. I'm going to go
okay,
with no.
That's why I and so yeah, it was ambiguous. I wasn't sure. I was like, well, it's not that it's impossible in this world because the aliens exist and we've made contact with them, whatever. But the thing that didn't make sense to me was like, well, why aren't they asking this guy questions? Right? Like, I mean, then it's like, oh, well, we already have a ship and an alien at Area 51, so we know what we need to know. But I'm like, well, if somebody's claiming to have had contact with these people, wouldn't you want to be like, tell us everything, and then you can decide if they're kooky or not? Like, in the beginning, I actually thought he was going to be the one that, like, saved.
Right.
In the very, very beginning, right? Because I was like, oh, yeah, this guy's going to come, he's going to sober up, he's going to, like, no, none of that happened. He just kamikazed into the ship.
There you go.
So,
and the I'm back line was a throwback. I think it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where somebody says, they're back.
You there, back? Yeah.
I can't remember if that was that.
I think you're right. I think that was Close Encounters.
It was. It's been a minute since I've seen that one.
I will say, I don't believe the people in the movie believe that he was actually abducted.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
That makes sense.
So it's written in such a way.
They did embellish that they did all sorts of sexual experiments on him.
Well, those are the guys that
was the haters.
Yeah, they're
making
haters. Fun of him. They're making fun of him. Okay. So, look, I'm glad we did this movie for Independence Day, even though it's still, in my opinion, not the greatest leadership examples. What advice would you give if you could pull one character aside and tell them something?
Well, I think we've already mentioned it, but the Prez, he got to stay doing Prez stuff and not fighting wars. He's got people to do that for him. He's got responsibilities.
Are you in violent agreement, Mariam?
Violent agreement. I don't have advice for any. I don't know, because I don't know. This is a hard question.
I will say,
put on your oxygen masks when you go to space.
Right. I will say, throughout this was kind of like, don't give up on your dreams. All of them, however late in life it was, whether it's David, becoming or thinking bigger, whether it's Russ getting sober, even for a few hours. Captain Hillard got to go to space. Miguel somewhat, remedied his relationship with his father. Yeah, there was a lot of things where people, finally got to see part of their dream come true.
Okay. You've inspired me, so I'm going to jump on that. That turn of phrase is going to be regrettable here in a second when you find out who I'm going to talk to. I'm going to tell Jasmine, hey, you know what? You seem like you have some talent and some skills that go beyond what you're doing. Maybe go exploit some of those.
But you're assuming she'll make more money doing that than doing what she's doing now.
No, I'm not.
In her words.
It wasn't even, I didn't say anything about money.
No, I wouldn't change her career path. I'm like, yes, honey, get that money.
Look, you know what? She can keep getting that money, but it seems like she has some other skills that could be of use. So, maybe she could consider putting those into action. Start a nonprofit, do it as a hobby. I don't care.
Well, let me also say that there's not going to be many people who want to see her do that occupation, let's say today.
Because it's 30 years later. Oop, don't do the math.
Correct.
Don't do the math.
It's 30 years. It's 2026 minus 1996.
Yeah, but she invested in Google when they IPO'd, so it, she doesn't need to work anymore.
I know, but I don't think that's what Corey was saying. think Corey was implying that...
I was implying that looks go down as we all get older.
If she was 25...
I know, and I'm saying she doesn't
Except
need
for
to
me, that's
work.
weird.
And I'm saying she doesn't need to work anymore in today's... You're saying, oh, she's going to age and not look great. I'm saying, well, yes, she already retired. Because she invested correctly and is a bajillionaire.
Let's see.
So what you're saying is...
What we're saying is, happy birthday, America. And,
America.
Thank you, Mariam and Corey, the Coaster Man, for joining me for this episode of the Lead Out Loud podcast.
Hey, it was my pleasure, Sean. Good as always to see you.
Likewise, sir. All right, well, we will see everybody next time for... Actually, I do know what the next episode is going to be, but I'm not going to tell anybody. It's going to be a surprise.
It's going to be